Well, good afternoon, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you and call to order our Middlesex County Council meeting for Tuesday, July the 13th. Well, today is a great day. It is yet another step in making our way back to a more familiar way of holding our meetings. For those that are watching today's meeting, this is our first hybrid meeting. Many of us are in the county building, but we are gathering in different rooms to respect public health protocols. Our senior staff are joining us from their offices or remotely. And while the screen will look as it has for the last 16 months, we are together while being separate. And that is a promising a step forward to conducting our civic business in person around the horseshoe. And I can't tell you how thrilled I am as I look out into the council chambers and actually am sitting here with my colleagues. It actually gives me chills and almost brings a tear to my eye. So it really is a good day. We're going to have a report later today updating us on the Middlesex London Paramedic Service vaccine program. But today they're in North Middlesex, and I just wanted to let everyone know that Councillors Ropp and Cornelison are volunteering there today, so they will not be joining us for our council meeting. I also want to take this opportunity today to officially welcome Marcy Ivanich to our team, as she is officially now in her role as clerk for Middlesex County. Marcy is no stranger to the county, as she has moved upstairs from being downstairs in the legal department. Many of you have had the opportunity earlier today to meet and talk with Marcy, and if you haven't been able to, I encourage you to take the time to meet her and get to know her. I know that you all join me in officially welcoming Marcy. We all look forward to getting to know you better and working with you in the days, months, and even years to come. So have a great meeting, Marcy. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay, any business arising from the minutes that have been presented to you? We have in front of us the minutes from our Middlesex County Council meeting that was held on June 22nd. And if there's nothing that needed to be updated on those, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve those as presented. Councillor Warwick and Councillor Richards. All opposed? And that's carried. So, because we've been able to meet in person, we are going, the closed session minutes have been circulated to council. And those minutes are from March the 10th, 2020, May the 12th, 2020, June 23rd, 2020, July 14th, 2020, September 22nd, 2020, October 27th, 2020, December 15th, 2020, January 19th, 2021, February 16th, 2021, May 11th, 2021, and May 25th, 2021. And I trust that you've all had the opportunity to go through them. And with that, I would ask for a mover and a seconder to approve all of those closed session minutes as presented. Councillor DeVitt and Councillor Mayhew. All opposed? And that's carried. Okay, we don't have any deputations, any inquiries or notices of motion. Okay, moving on, no reports, into new business. And the first one is a report from Wayne, and it's Telecommunications Access Road Use Agreement. So Wayne, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Warden. From yourself to council. Start.ca is the successful bidder of a portion of the SWIFT project for fiber optic installation in Middlesex County, and in particular in Thames Center. START is agreeable to the county's blanket access road use agreement, which was adopted in early 2021, which provides access to county road allowances across the entire county for telecommunications installation, subject to the approval of engineering drawings, the obtaining of work permits, and the taking of necessary bylaw security. The county's blanket agreement has focused on keeping the annual flat fee for causal costs lower than other municipalities while ensuring that such costs are covered in order to prevent taxpayer losses and subsidization beyond that which has been approved by council. So for example, the just over $784,000 approved for the SWIFT project. The agreement is being used in this case by both the county and Thames Center, which provides for ease of project discussions and administration. And to date, the county form of agreement has been agreed to by all of the various successful proponents of the SWIFT fiber installation project and beyond. In terms of furthering strategic goals, the START project provides connections through infrastructure, cultivates Middlesex community vitality, and strengthens our economy. And the county certainly appreciates telecoms acting in Middlesex County, supports them as community contributors, and looks forward to the build out of SWIFT and other fiber initiatives. And so the recommendation is for the START Access Road Use Agreement to be approved and endorsed, subject to any questions council may have.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that, Wayne. Are there any questions at this time for Wayne on this report? Okay, seeing none, then I would ask for a mover and a seconder for the recommendation that's in front of you. Councillor Vanderheyden and Councillor Elliott. And all opposed? And that's carried. Our next report is actually a community paramedicine update, and it is to be deferred to our August 10th meeting. Do I need a motion to defer it? Yes, I do. So if I can just get a mover and a seconder to defer this report to August 10th, please. Councillor Mayhew and Councillor Vanderheyden. All opposed? And that's carried. Okay, this one, it's a report from Adam Bennett, Commander with MLPS, and this is with regards to an RFP for electronic patient care records software. So Adam, it's great to have you with us, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Warden, and through yourself to Council. We are nearing the end of our contract with our current provider for electronic patient care records, and we are going to RFP. Over the last 5 years, there have been significant advancements in the electronic patient care records, in software, as well as the hardware that supports it, and there's the opportunity for potential cost savings that are there. The intent of the RFP going out early is to provide us the opportunity to analyze those new initiatives that have come out through the software solutions, as well as any of the cost savings that could be there, and ensure that we have ample time to train staff for any of the changes, developments, or even potentially a new software solution should we end up with a new provider. So the recommendation is that this be received for information.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions on this? Councillor Vanderheyden.
Yes, thank you through the chair. Thank you for the report. I just have one question. I am not IT savvy, so this is why I'm asking this question. When and if you have to go to a new system, like if you get a new solution to what we're doing, will the old records be able to transfer over to the new records? I don't. Well,
that's a good question. That's a great question. Oh, sorry, I didn't know I was unmuted. That's a great question. Adam, go for it.
Yes, so we've made sure that our patient care records, so the historical records that we have, we would be able to bring with us to whatever provider we end up with. We'll still have access to all of the old patient care records. So that's been carefully thought out in conjunction with IT.
And Warden, just one other thing on this RFP. We're looking at this, Adam, maybe you can give a bit of a history too, just so council understands this is way more than just about software, because it's also a hardware story that will be pretty significant. And we're hoping that over the course of this process, we'll be able to save money in both and provide a better product. But Adam, maybe you can just provide a little bit of background of how it's done now, and then what some of the other opportunities might be, considering how much hardware we use.
Okay, that's good. And I'm just going to get you to pause and just ask Councillor Vanderheyden, did you have follow-up?
No, maybe I can ask that when Adam's done. That would be great. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
So the current software solution that we have is supported on Windows laptops. The evolution of the software solutions that are there now, so the programs that are going to run the electronic patient care records, are evolving to work off of different types of platforms, including some of the solutions that are out there work off of web-based platforms, which allow us to move away from the more expensive laptops, and we have the ability to look towards whether they be Windows tablets or even iPads, depending on that particular provider. So that's another reason why we're looking for the RFP to be early, because it opens up the opportunity for us to potentially have cost savings with the type of hardware that we need to purchase in order to support that. And the hardware that we have is coming to its end of life cycle. So that's something that we would be looking to do in unison with this. So the timing is really good for this, and it provides a lot of opportunity for us.
Thanks for that, Councillor Vanderheyden.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up, and thank you for that clarification. And I absolutely agree with Adam and Bill, both of you, that we have to continue to look for solutions that I guess I can tell you, once I was in a conference and a futurist was speaking, and the futurist said, "You're going to wake up dumber in the morning after a good night's sleep." And I thought, what the heck? Well, what he meant was the whole world is passing us by. Well, half the world that's not sleeping is passing us by in IT while we're sleeping. And that's how fast IT is changing. And if we don't keep up and we don't do the things that need to be done, then we will be left behind with IT. But I also know how frightfully expensive hardware and software are. So that's why I asked the question, because if we're going to do an RFP, we need to make sure, and I obviously you did make sure that all of those eventualities or possibilities are in that RFP. So that's why I asked. So thank you for the clarification.
Any other questions for Adam on this? And just so everybody knows, the authority board is meeting tomorrow morning, and we'll review the RFP, and then it'll get out as soon as possible. So if I could get a mover and a seconder to receive the report for information, that would be great. Councillor Richards, and a seconder, Councillor Mayhew. All opposed? That's carried. Okay, moving on, and Miranda has joined us, and this is a MLPS COVID-19 vaccine initiative update. And I see Bill's unmuted, so are you going to do it and hand it over to Miranda? I think it's a...
Oh, let's go straight to Miranda in beautiful
Miranda.
North Middlesex today.
Yes.
Hello, I hope everyone can hear me okay. Yep. Awesome. Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me join you. We are in Park Hill at our North Middlesex vaccination clinic. Now that the rain has stopped, we have more people joining us. So I'm hoping that the lobby doesn't get too loud out there. So I was asked to join in just to kind of give you an update on what our MLPS vaccination initiative has been up to. So if I don't know who is in control of this PowerPoint, there we go. Awesome. So in late May, there was a proposal brought forward hoping to get more vaccines out throughout our community, and really focusing on people who have faced barriers getting to fixed vaccination centers, whether it be shift workers or homebound clients, and then people who maybe are just further out in the county that have problems getting to those fixed centers. So we, our team really started to focus on how we can support those particular members in the community. And with the support of the County of Middlesex, the Middlesex London Health Unit, and the Ministry of Health, we were able to receive an allocated dose of Moderna COVID vaccine, and we began to work with that. We'll go to the next slide. So just to give you a little bit of timeline of what our clinics have been up to, the beauty of our clinics, we are able to, our team will go into any site that is given to us, find me a space, and we'll develop a clinic. So every clinic has been very unique in the needs, whether it being starting at 5 o'clock in the morning to get end of night shift workers their vaccines, or going into a bedridden homebound client, or going into a county community center. So June 9th, we started with our homebound clients first. That list was mostly from our community paramedicine clients that were needing, for the most part, their second doses. We did have a few first doses in there. Initially, the first dose was our big objective, to get those out and then make sure, obviously, that we were supporting those high risk second dose needs. June 14th, we started in our workplaces. June 11th, June 14th, Strathroy businesses. These were high-risk businesses. There was a list that was developed, initially formed by the County of Middlesex, the City of London, and later updated by the Middlesex London Health Unit, who had been receiving inquiries from these high-risk businesses and workplaces who have maybe gone through multiple outbreaks, wanting to get the vaccine on site, as opposed to finding a time to get to their workers into those fixed sites when they're very, very minimum in the time that they would have available to get to the sites. So we were able to go on site and support them, which was great. Moving along to our next slide. Our biggest clinic to note so far was the end of June, and this was our Cargill London clinic. This was the first drive-through that not only our team was able to establish and operate, but it was the first in our region, which was super exciting. Very, very busy 2 days. In those 2 days, we were able to administer 990 doses, not only to Cargill employees and family and friends, but Cargill opened it up to the public. And our team was able to face the wind, rain, all elements, and we got that clinic done. And the feeling at the end of that, we had so many people who were so overjoyed that they didn't have to get out of their car. I can't tell you how many people we had come up, and some of them were actually super emotional that they hadn't been able to access any fixed site because they were so worried about how they were going to get their family member or themselves through the front door. So the thought that they just had to sit in their vehicle and drive there, that was what the support that they were looking for, which was great. And we've been able to carry that model through all of our clinics. So if I'm at a fixed site and we have somebody who is not able to get into the workplace or the community center, we'll send a team member out to the parking lot to make sure that everyone who needs and wants a vaccine will receive it. So just a couple pictures. The warden was able to pop by at Cargill, which was great. General Dynamics was our next bigger clinic. Initially, they had an ask of over 990 employees. So we were able to receive an additional allotment of vaccine from the ministry, which was fantastic. At the end of the day, the actual number was smaller than the 900, but again, for us, my focus is to really get that vaccine to the people who need it the most. So regardless if we're doing hundreds and hundreds, we are doing a large amount of first doses still, getting into these workplaces. And we're told multiple times that if we don't go to them, they had already decided that they weren't going to get it. And because we're at their workplace or because we're in their town, they have no excuse now. So it's been very encouraging for our team, knowing that we're getting these vaccines to those sites. What was interesting about General Dynamics there, with the different formats that we're able to run our clinics through, that was the first cubicle setup. So I'm not sure if anyone has seen it in the media or not, but we were in a big trailer, and the site had already established multiple cubicles. So our vaccinators and our team members went to that person. So they would walk in and then they wouldn't move, just in the bottom right there. So that was the first. Very interesting model. For the most part, having that separate stages, more traditionally in what you would see in that fixed center, has worked best, but we were able to administer, I believe, it was close to 400 vaccines at General Dynamics in that setting, which was great. And then this is bringing us up more current. So the first of our county pop-ups was in Elsa Craig, July 6th. We have a whole list of sites there. We're in North Middlesex today. We're going to Lucan and Strathroy. I think our Strathroy is in Melbourne. So we're making sure that we're being mindful and working collaboratively with the Middlesex London Health Unit and their pop-ups to make sure that we're not overlapping at all. I can say that we've had 2 county pop-ups so far, Elsa Craig and Kerwood, and both of them totally surprised me. We did 308 doses in Elsa Craig, and we were well over 260, I believe, in Kerwood, which for a really short drive-through clinic, we were able to get those vaccines out as quick as possible.
And we were kind of planning for 150, right, Miranda, in both
yeah.
locations? And then I get the 11 o'clock phone call, says, we're done 150, let's get some more out. So they were really overwhelmed.
Yeah, and we ran out of time more than anything with our Kerwood. I felt bad. Towards the end of the day, we did have to turn some cars away just so that we could ensure that we got everybody who was in that line their vaccine. And people have been so fantastic, even with the waits. But we were able to refer them to our next clinic. So if I am at Strathroy in a business, if we ever have somebody who maybe shows up to one of our pop-ups and they're not eligible that day, because we still do have to follow that mandated time frame, we're able to offer people options. So I actually had a couple people that showed up at Kerwood. They were short in their eligibility, and we just did them yesterday when we were at Meridian, which was fantastic. But so far today, what are our numbers? With the rain, there was initially a lineup around the building here at in North Middlesex, but to this point, we've done 180 so far today, and we're here until 4. Collectively, our new number since this PowerPoint was made, we're now at 2,798 doses administered in that short time frame since we've been operating. We do have a clinic pretty much booked every single day for the month of July, Monday to Friday. We are moving into building in more homebound days. We have a lot of homebound clients that we're working our way through the list with Middlesex London Health Unit and the LIN as well, to make sure that these clients can still participate in that accelerated second dose. And then we were talking about it today, with these county pop-ups that we have been planning or that have been planned, the amount of first doses that we're seeing, I think it's going to be really important for us to be able to offer second doses. So my hope is that all of the Elsa Craig, the Granton, the North Middlesex clinics that we have scheduled right now will be able to follow up and ensure that those clients receive their second doses in the same location that they received their first dose. Are there any questions so far?
I'm I think that's it for the screens. Miranda, I don't think there's anything else after that. So thank you very much for that update, Miranda. I think anybody that's spoken to me knows that this has been a real passionate project of mine, and I just cannot say enough about you, your leadership, and your team for getting this program up and running and rolled out as successfully as it has. You brought us up to date. We're up to over 2,700 doses. I think it's important to just let everybody know that initially our initial allocation was 2,000 doses. Then we were given another 4,000, and now we really are in the supply chain, so that, you know, if we max out at that additional 4,000 doses, that getting more doses will not be an issue. So, and I think that's because it's a success of how the program has been managed. So I want to thank you for that. I know that every community that you've been to and every employer that has had you there just speaks so highly of the professionalism. And as you say, I was fortunate enough to be at the Cargill one. I popped into the General Dynamics one, and it really is startling when you read the media reports. You think everybody's got their first dose, or, you know, you're thinking of percentages of what a percentage means translated into actual numbers. And it was surprising to me as I spoke to people in their cars and employees, how many people really don't have their first vaccine. And you touched on it as to why they're not. And it you know, it's not necessarily vaccine hesitancy, as perhaps maybe there's a story out there. It's because of the ease of getting it. You know, I've said all along, if we can bring the vaccine to people, then, you know, then there will be no excuse. So I'm just really pleased with the way you've rolled this out. So congratulations. Bill, did you have anything to offer up before I open it up for questions?
Just, you know, this reminds me a lot actually of the broadband problem we have in the county, and this, you know, just how hard it is. I use the term last mile all the time for Miranda's team, because they really are bringing that to the last 22% that for whatever reason haven't had a first vaccination. And the warden and Miranda and I have had lots of opportunities to hear personal stories about what the hesitancy was. And it's not necessarily what you'd hear in the news. Like Miranda said, it was, hey, I just didn't feel comfortable getting out of my car. Or one fellow said, I don't get flu vaccines. I don't get any types of needles. But it was it was literally 3 doors away from my house. So I didn't have an excuse because you folks were so close. And this last mile project may not sound like a lot, but now it's sort of like a ground fight. You got to get right in the communities to get that last 22%. But this is incredible work this team's doing, and the extension of the community paramedicine work we do. And it is something really for the county to be proud of in terms of the work that's happened here. So that's all I'd add, I think.
Absolutely. Okay, Councillor Vanderheyden.
Yes, thank you through the warden. First of all, a couple thank yous myself as well. And I know that these things don't happen just by themselves. There has to be some vision and some push and some pull. And our warden did an amazing job to help in that regard as well. Of course, she's not patting herself on the back, but I think she deserves a pat on the back as well. Miranda, you and your team, Neil, you and your team, it has been incredible what we have all accomplished in this county through a pandemic. I mean, this is not something that we planned. This is not something that any of us knew how to deal with, but we've moved forward. And something like this initiative shows an example of ingenuity and the understanding of small urban and rural areas. We have transportation issues. We have issues of access to different services. And this highlighted that one more time. However, everyone stepped up and made sure that people have opportunity to get this vaccination. If you don't get the vaccination, we're not going to get back to where we want to be. So I really encourage anyone that's listening to please find out where these clinics are. If you can't get into the other clinics that are out there, which are still operating, by the way, and would be happy to have you come and visit them as well. And the one in the county is the Care Community Center. Please go and get your shots, because it's so important, because we all want to move forward together. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for that, Joanne. Okay, any other questions or comments for Miranda Walsh? We've got her on the screen. Okay, well, thanks for joining us. Miranda, hope the rest of the clinic goes well. It was great seeing you.
Thank you. Thank you all
Okay.
again for your continued support.
Okay.
Have a great
Take care.
day.
Yeah, thanks. I just need a mover and a seconder to accept that report for information. Councillor Vanderheyden and Councillor Elliott. All opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor comments and other business. Okay, moving into our bylaws. Marcy.
We have number 7123, a bylaw to appoint board members to the Middlesex London Emergency Medical Services Authority. Number 7124, a bylaw to authorize the warden and the clerk to execute a telecommunications municipal access agreement with start.ca. And 7125, a bylaw to confirm proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the County of Middlesex, July 13th, 2021.
Great. So can I get a mover and a seconder for the first and second reading of those bylaws, please? Councillor Warwick and Councillor Smith. All opposed? Those are carried. And then for the third and final reading, a mover and seconder, please. Councillor Elliott and Councillor Brennan. All opposed? That's carried. Okay, moving into the Committee of the Whole, we do have two delegations, although they are not scheduled to begin until 2 o'clock. So we'll just move on and we will circle back once I guess in half an hour at 2 to those two delegations. So we'll move on to action items. And this one is a report from Dirk, and it's a proposed plan of subdivision in the municipality of Southwest Middlesex. Dirk.
All right, thank you. And through the warden. So this is an exciting proposal for Southwest Middlesex and for the community of Glencoe. It's a almost 35-acre property, and the development would overall consist of 119 lots for a single detached dwelling, 16 semi-detached units, and then a block for medium density development, likely to be developed by townhouses in the future. And it's at the south end of Glencoe, sort of across from the fire hall, and it would have access from both existing local roads and County Road 80. So this report is an overview or summary from the perspective of the county, and the additional documents are attached, including the local planning report that was considered by Southwest Middlesex Council. As the report does note, there was some time taken. The application was submitted about a year ago. The public meeting was held in the fall, and then there were some changes and some additional work that was needed to be done based both on comments from local council and from the public. In the end, I think we are at a point where I am recommending approval. I think we're at a point where it's appropriate to proceed, and there are conditions proposed to address the Conservation Authority, the county engineer, and the municipality. I did note in the report a sort of a summary of some of the comments from nearby residents, and they related to land use compatibility, impact on existing dwellings, servicing, and road improvements. So the policy tests, as you know, Council, that it does encourage development to occur in settlement areas like Glencoe on full municipal services, and the subject lands are an appropriate location for development of this scale. So in the end, I am satisfied that it conforms with the planning tests, and I am recommending approval. And of course, we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Dirk. And I would agree, a very exciting project for our friends in Southwest Middlesex. Comments or questions? I think I saw Councillor Mayhew's hand up.
Thank you very much, Madam Warden. Dirk, I'm very pleased to see this development come forward. There's both interest and a need being shown from families that wish to locate in Southwest Middlesex. This benefits not only the accommodation of families, but it enhances the market and growth opportunities for our business district, our schools, our places of worship. And I really enjoyed the report, and thank you very much, Council. We'd be very happy in Southwest Middlesex if this moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments on the report? Okay, seeing none, then you do have the recommendation in front of you, so I would ask for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Vanderheyden and Councillor Richards. All opposed? And that's carried. Moving on to the next item. This is again from Dirk, and it's a Lucan Biddulph official plan amendment regarding a community improvement plan. Dirk.
Thank you, through the warden. And as a number of other municipalities across the county have undertaken over the last year, in part in support from economic development at the county level, Lucan Biddulph has undertaken a township-wide CIP program. And it targets, I won't go into a lot of detail, it does target economic development, community revitalization, affordable housing, and enhancing the public realm. So through that local process, there were a number of recommendations to Township Council, and one of them is to update the municipality's official plan, and amendment number 9 is the outcome of that. And it really is just a number of textual changes, and I did characterize it as being technical or administrative. The official plan already provided for CIPs, but it was more the older style, where it was more geared towards downtown areas, where this CIP is a more broad based. And so the amendment, the local planning report and the amendment are attached. And in the end, I was satisfied that it makes the policy test check marks, and I am recommending approval.
Great, thank you, Dirk. Any questions or comments on this report? And seeing none, the recommendation in front of you, and a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Warwick and Councillor DeVete. All opposed? And that's carried. Thank you very much. And I might just, on behalf of our staff at Lucan Biddulph, I know worked quite closely with Kara and the team in Dirk's department to get that through. So exciting for us to carry us through the next few years. Okay, the next report in front of us is a report from Chris, and this has to do with a request for a 4-way stop in the village of Avon in Thames Centre. So Chris, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Warden, bringing this request to County Council at the request of Elgin County Council. So we're very familiar with the village of Avon in Middlesex County. There's been a concern raised by residents recently. We've heard these concerns before many years ago and did some modifications to the town. They seem to go away. They've resurfaced again lately, and mainly to do with traffic speed and to do with traffic noise. There's quite a high percentage of commercial vehicles, large trucks, agricultural traffic in this area of the county. And residents are concerned with what they consider to be excessive use of engine brakes through the village of Avon, and concerns with vehicle speeds. So we met with local officials from Elgin County and Thames Centre. This is a shared jurisdiction intersection. Avon Drive is shared between Thames Centre and Elgin County, and then of course Putnam Road is Middlesex County Road. So we have shared jurisdiction over this intersection. So any changes to the intersection should be approved by all 3 municipalities. So we reviewed this intersection in the past, made some modifications to some sight lines. Those of you who are familiar with the intersection will know that on the southwest corner, there is a building with a front porch that extends quite close to the road allowance. Previously, they had plantings and a lattice work on that front porch that blocked sight lines. We've had those removed, and the homeowner, the building owner, has been very good at keeping that area clear of obstructions. And then it's also on a bit of a skew, this intersection, and it has a bit of an upslope as you come from Elgin County to the north. So there's a few different things at this intersection. We did a detailed review here. It does meet the requirements for sight distances and other concerns that we would have from a traffic safety standpoint. And as you can see, there was quite a detailed review completed by Elgin County staff in the report that follows my report that talks about the average speeds that they were observing. You know, they're between 60 and 66 kilometers per hour, which is over the posted speed limit of 50, but certainly not out of the sort of the range that we would normally observe for people, you know, traveling, you know, in many areas in Middlesex County, Elgin County, and Ontario. There's a very low frequency of collisions. There have been 2 collisions, the 2 that are noted is one in 2016 and one in 2018. And they were stop and pull out type of collisions. So unfortunate, but 2 collisions that were reported. So very low as far as overall collision statistics go. And we've actually came together and as a group decided we would take sort of a graduated approach to road safety. So approach the OPP for improved enforcement, take some additional actions with clearing sight lines, so making sure that there aren't cars being parked in close proximity to this intersection causing a sightline issue. And that was generally agreed to by the county engineer in Elgin, myself, and from the public works director in Thames Center. So the report was presented to Elgin County Council, which recommended this graduated approach, and their council decided to move forward with a 4-way stop. There are a number of concerns that were raised both by Elgin County's engineer and myself with regards to 4-way stops, specifically to control the issues that were raised in the petitions that are also attached to this report. You know, it's very clear. We use the Ontario Traffic Manual as a guideline for sound engineering decisions with regards to regulatory signage in Middlesex County. And you can see on the second page of my report, talks about why you shouldn't use a 4-way, where 4-way stops should be used. They're quite restrictive, really sort of as an interim measure for a couple of cases. One is if you're going to switch the direction of the stop vehicles from one direction to another, which is not what we're recommending here. Where there is a very high frequency of collisions, whether less restrictive measures have been tried, and we're trying those less restrictive measures now, but there's not a high rate of collisions either. And also for when it's sort of a stopgap when you can't get traffic signals in place, and it certainly does not warrant traffic signals here due to the low volumes of traffic. And it's also very key to understand the next part of the guide, which says it should not really ever be used as a speed control device. That's not the right application for a stop sign. There are other measures that we can use to help control speeds. Enforcement and education really help. And certainly the issue for us with the grade is related to the noise issue that's been reported by residents. Just standing in the field, seeing trucks pull up to that intersection, making a turn where they have to stop and turn left or right. Northbound vehicles, heavy trucks especially, make a tremendous amount of engine noise, revving up in low gear to get moving. You can imagine every single truck having to stop and do that maneuver would certainly create additional noise in the area, as well as exacerbating the issue with engine brakes, as every truck heading southbound would have to stop as well. So certainly would agree with the report of the Elgin County's engineer at this graduated approach. We have taken some measures already and will continue to work on improving safety at this intersection. But my recommendation is to follow that report, and I do not support the installation of a 4-way stop at this point, certainly not before we try other safety measures at this intersection. That's my report, Madam Warren. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Chris. Appreciate that. Questions or comments? Councillor Warwick.
Yes, thank you. And again, I would like to thank the county engineer for taking the time to meet with both Deputy Mayor Elliott and I in Thames Center and discuss this issue in a very fulsome way. I just want to stress the importance of finding solutions for our hamlets. You know, I don't know if it's due to COVID with more children being home or more people being aware of the traffic, but it seems that a lot of our time these days is dealing with concerns of residents and legitimately so of the increased traffic or the speed of the traffic that's going through the hamlets. And I think a lot of people just instantly think a 4-way stop is going to slow things down. And I think they think it's a simple solution. And not always are they aware of the different aspects that you've shown us as far as the noise. So I think it's really important that if we do have these solutions, that we follow up with them and not forget these people. We know too, like there are changing developments, and our growth in our hamlets affects us as well. We have signs where it's 80 and now it's development, and you've been so kind to help us with that, Chris, as well, to make sure that it's safer for people to cross the road. I just want to make sure that everybody recognizes our unique hamlets out in that area. Not only do we have a large amount of truck traffic going through, but we have a large Amish population that use that road in horse-drawn vehicles. And it's not uncommon to see during the day children walking back and forth from school in large groups that are, you know, maybe as young as 5 or 6 and being tended by 8 or 9, 10-year-olds. And I mean a large group, I mean like, you know, 10 people walking down the road. So I think it is really important that we recognize this unique nature. And I would like to make sure that the county engineer really helps us with this approach to slow this traffic down in the area. I'm just not sure what's going to happen next. Maybe Chris can help us with that, because here we are as a group looking at a proposal that we're either going to support or not support, and the recommendation of our engineer is not to support. And now we have the county of Elgin, our neighboring community, wanting to support that. So I'm just wondering what that will look like moving forward.
Yeah, through the warden to Councillor Warwick, and we do have some ideas of things that weren't raised in Elgin County's report. And simply my report today is really just to address that report and the request, the letter that came to Middlesex County for the 4-way stop. It does talk about us for the continued support of OPP for traffic enforcement, and I think council's aware that we have been very supportive at the provincial level at having the OPP be supported and given the resources to provide additional traffic enforcement. They're part of the solution here. The other thing that we're talking about is we're coming up with other ideas sort of on the education side and other ideas with regards to community involvement. So we have had some ideas and we've had some discussions about some things we're hopefully going to be able to try in some of our hamlets, not just here in Thames Centre, but across the county. With some educational signage, some hopefully develop some types of programs to have some community involvement in safety. I know I've spoken to many residents over the year, especially this year, again, as Councillor Warwick said, during COVID. People are home, this is front of mind, seeing what's happening during the day when normally they would not be at home. So we're looking at some things and working with landowners because again, to simply suggest that engineering is the end measure here to solve the issue is short-sighted, and especially trying to use an engineering measure in a way it's not intended to be used and actually can create a hazard is something else that we need to be very mindful of. So I don't have more information for council today, but we are looking at some options, helping people realize one of the challenges we have is helping people realize they're entering our settlement areas, entering villages, delineating the difference between the rural area and the high posted speed limits. You'll see that on my next report. We're going to do some changes there generally across the county to help with that, but also doing some other things. We used to do sort of lament the loss of communities in bloom in a general sense, because we did see more community buy-in and sort of beautifying our settlement areas, doing things like roadside planting of flower gardens, things of that nature. We used to approve from time to time plantings around our village signs, which really helped draw people's eye to something a little bit different. East Wabano is a good example right now where there's community involvement, where they've created these homemade signs to bring more awareness to the posted speed limit. And it's really made a difference. And it's actually garnered some attention in our region and I think across the province as one way that communities can come together to help just to let drivers know that, people live here and you need to slow down and respect the speed limit. So we're doing those things. We're coming up with ideas and hopefully we'll have some more exciting things to do in that sense. But again, I think the basis of my report is to say sometimes you need to be mindful. Engineering measures can take you so far, but it's sort of one leg of the stool and we have to work better at some of those other things like enforcement and education and in my mind, community involvement.
Okay, thanks. Follow up, Councillor Warwick.
Yes, thank you, Chris, for that answer. And also, I know that I have been made aware of some signage that's in the county of Elgin, basically highlighting that it is a rural settlement zone and letting people know what to watch for. That would be horse-drawn vehicles, children, yield signs, slow-moving vehicles, that sort of stuff. And I think in our areas, like in Thames Centre, we have several large populations of Amish, not only in the southern end of Thames Centre, but up in the northern end as well in Welburn. And I think this might be a sign that would be a great addition for the county to let people, especially in our area where people are coming off the 401 and traveling, 110, and all of a sudden they're pulling into an area where there's a horse in front of them, just to heighten their awareness. And I would hopefully that we could support some of these signs in our area.
Okay, any other comments? I think I saw Councillor Elliott.
Yes, through you, the warden. I would just echo a lot of the comments that Councillor Warwick made, and thank Chris again for meeting with both Allison and I last week to discuss this intersection. I think we set a dangerous precedence when we put four-way stop in for speed control, when that is the root problem of what Hamlet is seeing, especially because then it sets the precedence for every Hamlet to want that four-way stop. So I would just be cautious and supporting Elgin County on this recommendation, and then just go what Alice is saying. There's a lot more things that we can be doing, and I'll just note that Good Roads is currently working with OFA on education pieces and PR that we can be doing in our rural areas as education pieces. So there's, I think, a lot of exciting things to come that will help our Hamlet areas.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Vanderheyden.
Yes, thank you, through the warden. This is one of those things that keeps propping up over the last year or two, and I know that we've got the Melbourne Road going Glendon and a number of other ones in the county. Would it be possible for us to have a visioning session sometime on this and maybe hash out some of the things that could be, and maybe just education for us, as Councillor Elliott just said, if there's educational programs out there for us to learn what would be acceptable and appropriate and actually work for our corners, because I understand a lot of this is driver error, but driver error kills, and I don't want to see that happening anymore in our county. And if there's a way we can set something up on a Zoom meeting or whatever, it doesn't even matter. I don't even care how we meet, as long as we do this, because I think it's something that is highly important, and we can't do stopgap measures. We need to find out a solution.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea, Councillor Vanderheyden, and I see Chris's head nodding, so maybe we can work towards something like that in the fall. Okay, any other comments, questions on the report in front of you? So there is a recommendation in front of you, and I would look for a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Elliott and a seconder. Councillor Vanderheyden, and all opposed, and that's carried. Okay, continuing with Chris, and it was a report that he referenced a few minutes ago, a speed limit bylaw update.
Thank you, Madam Warren. I'll be brief. Just highlight a couple of things here with our bylaw change. We normally do this in the spring. It's been slightly delayed. There's a few things that kind of came in a little bit later than normal. But again, we look at our speed limit bylaw. We try to limit to it twice a year. It's quite an onerous task for us to be updating our bylaw. We try and do it at certain times of the year, so we're making sure we're not changing speed limits in the middle of winter. Drivers have enough challenges than trying to change speed limits at that time of year. So one of the main things we've done is, I think that over time we've seen a number of requests come in for speed transition zones. So that is when we have our predominantly we have 90 km/h posted speed limits on county roads. The reason we do that is because our roads are designed to handle that type of traffic. These are mostly formal provincial highways, so they've been constructed to allow traffic to travel at that rate of speed safely. So we continue to maintain that speed limit. We see generally pretty good compliance with that speed limit, but it creates a challenge at the boundaries of our settlement areas. And this is one of the ways that I'm hoping we can help to promote people to slow down through our towns and villages. And you can see here, there's a number that had a partial speed limit transition or had no speed limit transition. So we've added all of those into our speed limit bylaw. So you can see there's a number of changes there at each of our these are sort of smaller settlement areas, but even places like Strathroy, we didn't have a speed limit transition zone on the west side of Strathroy coming into town. So it's beyond time for that. The other thing we've looked at is, again, to deal with the speed of traffic. There's really sort of not really a standard, but a guideline about if you think about a car coming from a stopped condition, having to accelerate to get to 90 kilometers per hour and then have time to decelerate back down to a 50 or a 60. There really is a limit to how long that zone should be. So we've created a sort of a maximum or a minimum length, I guess, for our 90 kilometer per hour zone. So we've changed a couple of those zones in Middlesex County, and you can see them, they're listed there. There was a short piece of Elgin Road down at the very south end of the county where it was literally 500 meters long, and it transitioned from 60 to 90 down to 80 when it went into Elgin County. So things like that have gone away, and we've addressed a couple of those spots in this bylaw. The other thing about Elgin Road, it was inconsistent the way the speed limits were posted. So we've created some consistency along Elgin Road. So instead of 80 to 90 to 70 to 60 to 90, again, we've created it all 80 all the way down. So I think that makes things a little clearer. It's still a section that's 90, but it's the section north of Dorchester that's always been 90. That's a long stretch that leads up to Dundas Street, and that's still safe. There's not a lot of entrances or interruptions to traffic flow in that area, so recommend to keep that the same. And then traffic growth. I think we're all aware of the amount of growth we're seeing in Kilworth, Kamoka, so it's time to drop that speed limit down to 70 all the way through that section of road. And we'll likely see that drop even further as we progress over the next few years with the construction of the county's first roundabout and other changes that will be implemented as part of the Glendon Drive corridor changes, the 4-laning of sections of Glendon Drive and those types of things. So we'll see a natural evolution where the type of traffic and the volume of traffic will necessitate us to further reduce that speed limit. But for now, 70 kilometers per hour would be appropriate, in my opinion, through that section. There's also some other minor adjustments throughout the bylaw, and those should be highlighted in yellow in the bylaw, or the changes that have been made to that bylaw, as well as our updated speed limit map. That, Madam Warden, I'll leave it at that, and happy to answer any questions.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that, Chris. I know that will be a lot of interested residents in this update for sure. Questions or comments on the update and what's been presented? Councillor Warwick.
Thank you, and through the warden to you, Chris. It's a pretty timely report, and I welcome the suggestions that you've made on that. I did have some residents reach out to me before, I guess, just as your report was going to print, asking me about Putnam. As you know, there's been sidewalks extended, and people are using the sidewalks. And I've had residents reach out thanking us for those sidewalks, especially the people that are using their mobile, like tricycles and things to get around, and it's been a big success there. The 80-kilometer-an-hour zone, is it possible to make a transition zone coming, if you're heading north into Putnam back towards Breen Road? The 80 to 50 is right in the village itself. The village is extended, so it's one of those places where it's easy to miss if, you know, again, out on the borders here. So hopefully that will be something that you'll consider for us.
Yeah, through the word to Councillor Warwick, we actually have that on my notes to be revised. Again, this is sort of it had already gone to print and been sent in, and when we met last week, we did discuss that. So yeah, these are these minor boundary adjustments that, you know, take a little bit more time than we'd like, but it's certainly one we'll get in before the final speed limit bylaw is approved by council in August.
Great. Any other comments, questions, clarifications? Okay, seeing none, you've got the recommendation in front of you and a mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Mayhew and Councillor Warwick. All opposed? And that's carried. Okay, I think what we'll do, because we've been joined by some friends, we'll go back to our delegation section. And I am pleased to see Crispin Colvin and Joanne Fuller that have joined us on our screen. They're no strangers to Middlesex County. And so I'd like to welcome them. And I'm going to hand it over to you, Crispin, because you're going to give us an OFA Homegrown Campaign, Farmland Preservation, MZOs, and Land Use Planning in 2021 report and presentation. So welcome, and it's great to see you, and over to you.
Thank you, Warden. And I always feel like I'm coming home again to Middlesex County. I see a lot of faces that I've known for many years. There are always new faces, of course, but I always feel it's a home away from home, and you always make me feel welcome, especially Bill when he referred to my long hair. July 23rd, Bill, get my hair cut. Anyway, thank you very much for having us, and I believe that you have the screens there. That's great. So I'll skip right to the next slide, since you know who I am. So just to give you a bit of an overview, the OFA, we represent 38,000 farm families. We're the largest farm organization in Ontario, and I believe in Canada, as a matter of fact. And one of the things that we always aim for is to ensure that the agri-food sector is included and consulted in any new legislation that impacts the sustainability of our farm businesses. Next slide, please. So the Homegrown Campaign was launched on May 4th, and the focusing around the key message is to educate the public and enhance the consumer knowledge on the threat and negative impacts that urban development poses to Ontario's agri-food system. In a nutshell, we're protecting farmland and food production. There is a link to an online petition at change.org for those who wish to support the program. So the next slide is, this one shocks a lot of people. Agriculture land is a finite and a very much shrinking resource. Ontario can't continue to sustain the losses of land and maintain our ability to produce food if we want to continue to produce food. In 2016, we found in the census that Ontario's land area agriculturally is less than 5%. And what we're losing, and you can see it on that slide, is 175 acres a day. And we cannot continue to sustain that level of loss if we wish to continue to feed our growing population. And it's not just that we lose 175 acres a day, we're losing the most productive agricultural lands, classes 1, 2, and 3, particularly classes 1. And as Ernie Hardeman was always quick to point out, the best agricultural land in Ontario was actually in Toronto, and we can't farm it. And this is the kind of land that we need to protect. The next slide, please. So agriculture in Ontario, we produce more than 200 commodities, more than any other province in Canada. And in fact, we rival to a degree some of the United States. We're a very good production province. We export a lot of our food as well. The next slide. So the land use issue and the planning process is very near and dear to our hearts, as it is, I know, to yours, because you're all involved in planning on a regular basis. Local planning processes provide the framework for a balanced consideration of land use needs for both agriculture and development. But the MZOs, the Minister's zoning orders, short circuit the long-established planning principles and policies, and it is a very short-sighted policy, I might add. Next slide, please. So on land use planning, we believe, and I hope you would join me in this belief, that the highest and best use of Ontario's arable land is for agriculture. Land capable of supporting agricultural activities is a finite, strategic, and non-renewable resource worthy of preservation. it provides safe, affordable, sustainable food for Ontario, Canada, and indeed the world. In fact, only 14% of the countries in the world are self-sufficient and have excess crop production. Only France in Europe is self-sufficient, and they list, and there is only a total of 8 major countries that are self-sufficient in food production, and Canada is one of those. That's a pretty small number when you consider the number of people we have to feed as the world grows. Next slide, please. So basically, we cannot continue to lose agricultural lands at a rate of 175 acres a day. And we have at the OFA a deep-seated concern with the recent proliferation of ministers' zoning orders issued for municipalities. Problem with MZOs, among other things, is that it eliminates the conversation around whether the proposed growth can be accommodated through intensification, redevelopment, or in designated growth areas. And that's particularly important now because of compliance with the provincial policy statement has been removed once the MZO is in place. As well, MZOs do not provide an adequate framework for understanding the impacts of taking land out of production. And they've been used numerous times, at least 6 that I'm aware of, and possibly more, to rezone farmland for an urban use. Now, one of the recent, I believe it's a request, it may not have come through as yet, but in York, the Greenbelt area, developers have now been asking to have parks and recreation land developed in the Greenbelt, the protected farmland area. This would allow the developers in turn to grow more houses in their land instead of dedicating lands to parks and recreation. That then puts the onus on agriculture to give up its land in order to provide recreational facilities instead of producing food. Next slide, please. So our first communication with the minister on this was in August of 2020. And we had concerns with the use of the MZOs because we see this as undermining Ontario's long-established planning system. So we've asked the minister for support in deferring the use of MZOs in areas that have robust planning processes. And Middlesex County is one of those areas that has a really great planning system. Next slide. So we've asked as well for agricultural impact assessments. For the longest time, this was never done, but at least currently, the government now has said they will do agricultural impact assessments in the Greenbelt and in the Greater Golden Horseshoe. What we are recommending is that agricultural assessments be handled throughout the province. Let's see what we do to our land when we want to take it out of production. What is the impact? What we need to know that. And I think that is just one step in good planning. Next slide. So simply put, you can't sustain the continued loss of lands that we are. So OFA is recommending a strengthening of the provincial policy statement to require fixed urban settlement boundaries. And this is the case in the Waterloo region. They have fixed boundaries. They are one of the more intensified growth areas in terms of population density. We're asking for fixed urban settlement boundaries and policies requiring mandatory intensification within existing built-up urban areas, as well as mandatory greenfield density requirements. Next slide. So with all of these changes to the process occurring alongside the continued issuances of new MZOs, we're concerned that the result could be the continued loss of more of our diminished supply of arable land. Again, I sound like a broken record. We cannot afford to continue to lose our class 1, 2, and 3 land, and that's exactly the kind of land that Middlesex County has and should be proud of. The next slide, please. So one of the things that we think we need to have more of is local input. OFA believes that providing advanced public notice for MZOs and any amendment to them is important. Under the MZO regulations, the minister and There is no need for public input at all. And that really circumvents good planning, and it circumvents your constituents' ability to have a say or at least express concerns. MZOs do not necessarily look at the negatives, they just look at the immediate, and we need to look at the broader picture. Next slide, please. So agricultural land provides a lot of benefits beyond the fact that this picture makes it look like a beautiful area. It is a beautiful area, and you know what agricultural lands do in your own communities. But the sad part is, once a farm is turned into a shopping center or a warehouse or a subdivision, it will never ever produce food again. You lose it permanently. And aside from food production, farmland also provides an expansive list of environmental benefits to all of the people who live in Ontario. Next slide, please. So along with food production, once it's taken out of production and turned into a parking lot, a shopping mall, a housing development, we lose the ecological benefits. We lose wildlife habitat, we lose wildlife corridors, we lose the ability to sequester carbon, of which agricultural lands are very good at doing. We can no longer have climate change mitigation by using the open spaces. We lose the ability for groundwater recharge. All of these things are no longer possible on the land, and things like flooding increases because the water now has nowhere to go. Next slide, please. So one of the things that the COVID pandemic has shown us is that local food and local food production is extremely important. Consumers throughout this period have been looking increasingly for local food, local meats, local dairy products, local food, fiber, all of it. And if we don't have that land base, we can't provide that food to our people. 70% of the food that we consume is produced in Canada. 50% of what we produce in Canada, we export. So the economic benefits in terms of both local food production, processing, as well as exporting are phenomenal. Next slide, please. So the bottom line is we're down to less than 5% of Ontario's land base that's suitable for the agri-food. And all the jobs and all the economic benefit and the environmental impact and the food security that we so dearly want will be lost if we don't maintain our food production. And one of the last points I will make is we saw what happened with the COVID vaccinations. Europe decided that they weren't going to export their vaccines until their own populations were vaccinated. The same will happen with food production if we end up into a food shortage in various countries. There won't be exports. So if we don't protect what we have, we won't be able to export, we won't be able to feed our own people. So it's imperative that we protect our farmland as much as we possibly can. It is a finite resource. We cannot continue to lose 175 acres a day. Thank you, and I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that, Crispin. Certainly a lot of food for thought on that presentation. Comments, questions for Crispin? Councillor Warwick.
Yeah.
Or
Thank
Joanne.
you.
I said, or Joanne Fuller. She's on as well.
I thought you meant Joanne Vanderheyden, and I was like, I didn't. I was going to fight it out over this. Anyway, thank you, Warden, and through the Warden to Crispin and Joanne. It's nice seeing you again, and always a pleasure. I was very interested in your presentation, especially the part where we're suggesting to educate the public. The part that I find very interesting is when the OFA suggests a higher density development should be mandated province-wide. That's one of the first complaints or comments that we get from residents when they see medium density or different densities other than a single home on a big lot being proposed in the settlement areas, is that they're really upset about that. And here we are having the OFA tell us it's something that's going to happen to help keep our farmland. And it's just nice to have more ammunition in your belt when you have people saying that they're not interested in townhouses. So thank you.
Thank you, Warden. I'm sorry, Councillor Warwick. who knows, maybe someday. My quick response to that is, I think that Canadians and Ontarians in particular, because of the value of our land, we have to start to understand that we're not going to be able to have the luxury of single family homes the way we have always had it. If you look at places like Hong Kong and Japan, high densities, very tightly packed, it's not ideal. But if you want to have food production, if this is a major part of our economy, and it is because it's about $47 billion of GDP in Ontario alone, then we're going to have to realize that single family homes are maybe going to become a bit of the thing of the past. Density is the way we're going to have to go. You can have a choice, is what I said in one interview I did. Down the road, we're going to have the choice between food and food production or a place to live. You need food, shelter, and clothing to live, but food you can't live without. Shelter and clothing, we can deal with it.
Any other comments on what's been presented to us? Councillor Mayhew, then Councillor Vanderheyden.
Thank you very much, Madam Warden. Crispin, that was an extremely interesting talk you gave. Thank you. Statistics, it is an alarming statistic, the 175 acres per day. But sometimes statistics can tell multiple stories. I'm sure that the majority of those 175 acres per day are coming from areas such as Windsor, London, Guelph, Kitchener, the GTA area, Barrie. And what we face around this horseshoe are requests from people in the agricultural sector, farmers who have been on a farm for multiple generations, asking for that 1 acre severance to retire on and build a home in regions of Ontario that do not have shopping malls, that do not have large metropolitan complexes. We are not part of the ring of the donut. These are requests that come in from people who have worked extremely hard on the land, who revere the livelihood of farming and ask for that 1 acre. And I have suspicions that this statistic of 175 acres per day is not coming from those lone riverside communities that are scattered around the Middlesex County Horseshoe, but are more, in fact, those around the metropolitan and large urban areas. What is your opinion on that in terms of the difference of that 1 acre of land in Southwest Middlesex versus 75 acres worth of land outside a large metropolitan area?
Thank you. First of all, my response, whether when I was on council and even if I were still on council, to that kind of request would be, I'm sorry, but I have to say no to that. And the reason I would say no to that is because it is not the primary user, the first person. If I were to sever a retirement lot off my farm, it's fine for me. But when I get to be 80 or whatever age I decide to leave that lot, I'm going to sell it or my kids are going to sell it. And subsequent owners are then going to create problems for the farmers all around it. The other aspect of that's negative about it is that it sterilizes the farmland around it. So if I want to increase a livestock operation, if I want to put up a greenhouse, if I want to put up something that's agriculturally related, I suddenly can't do that because I'm not going to be able to meet the minimum distance separations. So right off the bat, you're saying yes to a retirement lot, but you are then going to say no to the farmer because he can't expand his operation anymore because of that retirement lot. So they're very negative connotations to it, in my opinion, and always have been, even when I was on council. In terms of the 175 acres a day, much of it is probably in the Golden Horseshoe in the Toronto area. Yes, you're absolutely right. But that's not exclusive. And if you start doing, say, for example, as your question is, to have 1 acre lots here and there, how many 1 acre lots can you have? You could have 175 in Middlesex County in no time. I have no doubt that a number of people would be more than anxious to do this. So you're, instead of being part of the solution, with all due respect, you become part of the problem. And I think we don't want to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Calvin.
Okay, Councillor Vanderheyden.
Hello, Crispin. Good to see you. It's been a while. I used to sit across the aisle from you a couple of years ago. Okay, quite a few years ago. A couple of things. One, this is really a good time for us to be hearing this. I know we all know this, we all understand this, but it's always good to hear. Right now, a lot of us are working on our official plans, and one of the statements you made was fixed urban boundaries. And we all know in our communities, you know, at some point you run out of urban property. So how do you intensify? How do you move into areas that I think we all try? And to Councillor Warwick's point, yes, it's very difficult for us as politicians. We get a lot of grief for when we intensify. And one of my councillors in my own community says, if you don't want anything built around you, buy everything around you. And that's just pretty much, I live by that, because we have to intensify. And I think it's really, really important. So it's a good opportunity for us. But one of the things that maybe people need to think about when we are working on intensification or on acreage that is in our urban boundary, that we do secondary plans, so that we actually don't just do single family homes, but we also look at the other opportunities to put in apartments or semis or something that intensifies that property. So we utilize what we already have set out as in our urban boundaries. But you know, again, it's a good time for us to see this, because a lot of us are working on our official plans. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Vanderheyden, and it's great to see you. I'd like to be there to give you a hug, because I think that will come. Just to touch on it, as I said earlier, we have to intensify. We don't have a choice, because what I would say to people who are anti-intensification, and it's easy for me to say, somebody will say, oh, well, you live on a farm, nobody's near you, and that's quite right. It is a luxury, and it's a luxury that I appreciate. But we have to ask ourselves, which generation of our families will not be able to sustain themselves with food production? How many generations before we say, oh, gee, we should have gone up, not out. We shouldn't have developed around Strathroy or Thorndale or Park Hill or Glencoe, take your pick, any of the communities. But we should have gone up more. We should have simply said no. There's an economic price to pay with urbanization. As you know, the cost of infrastructure continues to go up. So sewers, water, roads, all the demands for services, arenas, pools, etc. All of that plays into it. And I think that's part of the challenge that as councillors and as members of the public like myself need to make clear, that everything we do has a cost. Every problem has a solution. Every solution has a problem. We need to look beyond just saying, well, I don't want a 3-story walk up in my community. I don't want a 10-story apartment building. Well, we're going to have to say, I realize you don't like it, but I like to eat. I think that's the trade-off.
Yeah. Just to follow up, I hear you're still clicking your pen, just saying.
Oh, sorry. If my wife were here, she'd have taken it from my hand.
Obviously, that's a habit that you must have. Okay, any other questions or comments for Crispin or Joanne? Seeing none, I'd just like to thank you for joining us. I think that the comments that my colleagues have passed along and the questions, I think are, as Councillor Vanderheyden said, is very timely. And I like the education piece that you have mentioned in your presentation, as Councillor Warwick brought in, because I do think that, you know, the average resident, and I hate using that term, doesn't equate, you know, the developments that they live in and where they live and the cost beyond their borders to that. So I appreciate what's been presented, and certainly we look forward to any future discussions or any other sort of help that we can provide you in the future on this. So that's great.
Feel free to sign the change.org petition to support the preservation of farmland. Warden and councillors, thank you very much, and friends, for taking us the time to have us here today. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. Okay, we do have another delegation with us today, and it is also a friend of Middlesex County, the Deputy Mayor from Southwest Middlesex, Mary Gay Wilkins, and she's got a request with regards to gypsy moths and she's got a presentation that she's going to present to us. I just wanted to make note that when the agenda was originally posted, that the Southwest Middlesex resolution and the correspondence from the mayor was included and linked to this presentation, but that's since been separated and it can now be found in the correspondence section of our agenda. So with that, Mary Gay, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome, and it's great to see you and glad that you are joining us this afternoon.
Well, thank you very much, Warden Burkhart-Jessen. It's nice to see everyone. And thank you for having me to, I believe this is your first hybrid county council meeting since the start of this pandemic. So it looks like you're all rather separated into different rooms. But anyway, thank you very much for having me here today. So we'll start with the slide presentation. Thank you. Warden, county council members, and county staff, thank you for allowing me to speak with you today on the impact of the gypsy moth, or recently renamed LDD for short, in Southwest Middlesex and across the county. Next. As you are all aware, I'm sure, there has been significant impact to our forests and woodlots in the county because of the gypsy moth infestation in the season of 2020 and again this year. I'm going to spend a little bit of time showing you the impact as well as sharing why I think it's important for the county to be involved moving forward with the program for 2022 to deal with another infestation. Next. The impact of the gypsy moth is being felt across the county. However, it is most prominently being felt in the largest county-owned woodlots in Southwest Middlesex, which includes Skunk's Misery. As you know, the gypsy moth does a significant amount of damage to the canopy of a woodlot once it has been infested with this pest. They can also cause severe rashes for people if you come in contact with a single gypsy moth caterpillar. While I can recognize that a gypsy moth infestation is on a cycle that can typically last 2 to 3 years, depending on conditions, can last upwards of 6 years. So even though the gypsy moth has already been in the area for the last 2 seasons, there is nothing to say that it will not continue for several more years, depending on the environmental conditions. Trees will try to refoliate and reproduce the leaves eaten by the caterpillar, but if there's enough stress to the trees, they will not come back. In Southwest Middlesex, I have heard from many residents and business owners, and this infestation in particular has had a very negative impact on their lives as well as businesses. Next. These are photos that were recently taken in the Misery, and you can see the damage that has been done this year from the gypsy moths. This area would be normally full, green, and lush. And as you can see, they've been decimated. Children are being kept indoors for fear that they will be hurt or harmed through the rashes caused by the gypsy moth caterpillar. People are not being able to use county-owned woodlots for their enjoyment or take that walk down the side of Dogwood, Centerville, Trillium, or Sassafras roads because of all the caterpillars and literally their waste raining on you. Next. The gypsy moth is destroying the tree canopy across the Misery, and you can see signs of them across the region. If you notice the picture on the right, you will see the many eggs. They're the white spots. Each egg can contain up to 1,000 caterpillars. So that just gives you some idea of what one caterpillar is capable of on one tree. Next. The County of Middlesex has a policy to protect and enhance the tree canopy and natural vegetation in the county. While I realize that a program to support the aerial spray of BTK will be a cost to the county, I do believe that this effort helps to support the county's policy for supporting and enhancing its tree canopy. I do think that trying to control this pest is worth the cost. The spray program is effective in controlling the gypsy moth and reduces the caterpillar's impact to the natural environment. Although, along with that, I believe it helps support economic development and tourism goals of the county by reducing the potential of county woodlot infestations, causing issues for neighboring businesses like nurseries and outdoor recreational activities. I also believe the natural environment is one of our strongest selling features for tourism. We know that the current infestation was predicted by the provincial government, as you'll see in the next slide. Next. The map on the left of the slide shows the areas of defoliation across the province in 2020, and our region does have areas of damage. However, I'd like to draw your attention to the map on the right, which is the ministry's projection for 2021. And the red circles show the severe defoliation forecast for 2021. That is exactly what has happened in the large red circles in Middlesex Centre and in Southwest Middlesex. The county is responsible for a number of woodlots infested in and around Southwest Middlesex. I am aware that Middlesex Centre, on its own initiative, has sprayed in 2021, and I believe they have plans to do so again in 2022. Next. The window of opportunity to spray BDK and have it be effective against the gypsy moth caterpillar is a short window of opportunity. I would therefore like to ask County Council to consider an investigation of an aerial spray program for Middlesex County woodlots for spring 2022, so that we do not potentially lose these beautiful woodlots that we are all so proud of across the county. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Mary Gay. Appreciate that presentation. Any questions or comments for Mary Gay at this time or discussion? Councillor Mayhew.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Warden. I'd like to thank my Deputy Mayor for the presentation. It's no surprise that Southwest Middlesex would be bringing this to County Council. It is the county's land, but you lie within those forests and woodland areas lie within our house, our Southwest Middlesex house. I don't think any of our councillors have experienced more calls on any issue than the gypsy moth. For a period of a couple of weeks there, our telephones rang off the wall. We take our tree canopy very, very seriously. I don't think there has ever been a presentation I have made in selling Southwest Middlesex to an investor that I have not mentioned our tree canopy. I think we come by that naturally. When we look to the west of us, Chatham-Kent have very little tree canopy. We have something that they do not. And it does add to our socioeconomic enjoyment of Southwest Middlesex having that resource. I enjoy the bush. I enjoy the woodlots. And I was out on a windless day. And ironically, some of the trees, the leaves were dormant, not fluttering still. But when you looked at the leaf of the oaks and the birches and some of the maples, the leaves were fluttering on a windless day because of the caterpillars. And as Mary Gay mentioned, you have to go into those woodlots with a wide brim hat because the feces drops from the trees like rain. So it is a significant problem. We are bringing to the County of Middlesex's attention that we are concerned about it. And again, I thank my Deputy Mayor for bringing this forward. It's a resource that we are very, very proud of. And we hope that there'll be some visioning with respect to this. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor. Any other comments or questions at this time? Councillor Vanderheyden.
Thank you, through the warden. So is this something that we need to send to our to Mark, because this is a forestry issue, and we need to make sure we have, you know, whatever the cost is going to be, what the timeline is, when it's best to do this, does there have to be public consultation? Because if you're going to do a flyover or however you put this stuff on, how is that going to happen? So I'm just asking those questions as to process, because, you know, we can only maybe do this once, and what is that? Is that going to work? Is it not going to work? Is it something that's proven in other areas, or is it just, I don't know, is it something that we're doing because of public pressure, or is it because we can control this next year, or will they be there next year? I have no idea, because I'm not a forestry expert. So just want to make sure that we have some of our questions answered, because I can't answer those questions.
I appreciate that, Councillor Vanderheyden. I think those are all good questions and concerns that I think are probably all going through our mind. I think I saw Bill has unmuted himself. Councillor Mayhew did, when he ended his comments, suggested maybe some sort of visioning session or maybe a report back. What are your thoughts, Bill?
We're going to be ready with the report for the next meeting for sure. With I think Joanne laid out almost all the questions, like almost like she read the notes. But
want me to write the report?
You can. I think that'd be okay. But anyways, I think we'll have all of that and a bit more ready for you for the next meeting for sure. And then we can decide if we need more at that point.
Thank you for that update on that. Any other further discussion? Okay, well, thanks, Mary Gay, for presenting. It was great to see you. And hopefully the next time you come visit us, it will actually be in person at the county building.
Thank you very much, Council, for the opportunity today. Have a good afternoon.
See you, Mary Gay. Okay, we're going to now flip forward. I think we have gone through all of our action items. So now we are at correspondence and information items. So general payables, June 1st to July 2nd, 2021, totaling $3,278,161.76. Planning payables, June 1st to July 2nd, 2021, totaling $3,054.85. Social service payables, June 1st to July 2nd, 2021, totaling $315,046.54. Strathmere Lodge payables, June 1st to July 2nd, 2021, totaling $207,064.14. Roads payables, June 1st to July 2nd, 2021, totaling $1,456,818.05. MLPS payables, June 1st to July 2nd, 2021, totaling $979,780.71. ITS payables, June 1st to July 2nd, 2021, totaling $125,154.47. Economic development payables, June 1st to July 2nd, 2021, totaling $35,137.60. Can I get a mover and a seconder to receive those items for information, please? Councillor Mayhew and Councillor Richards. All opposed? And those are carried. Moving on to 11.C.9. Letter June 21st, 2021 to Premier Ford. Second update on vaccine deployment. Letter June 29th, 2021 from Premier Ford. MLPS vaccine delivery. Letter July 6, 2021 from Middlesex County Warden, Cargill Vaccination Clinic. Construction notice, Hyde Park and Sunningdale intersection improvement project. Letter June 28th, 2021 from Minister of Transportation, extension of Community Transportation Grant Program. Councillor Vanderheyden.
To that one, I just want to say congratulations for everyone for getting this money in, and thank you to the government for putting this forward. We know we started these programs in the middle of a pandemic. Well, we started them pre-pandemic, but we laid them out and actually got the buses on the road during a pandemic, and I think it's been very successful. I think it's been really important for our communities and to residents that we support, and this money will help us move forward with looking at sustainability of our transportation system. And I know that SCORE is also working on finding the gaps on where we can better fill those gaps and how we can connect these routes. So I think it's really important. And I spoke about this before, the transportation piece when we were talking about vaccinations. It's really important for small, urban and rural to make sure that we put all of our funds and our minds together to come up with innovative ways of filling these gaps. And if transportation is one of those, this is a great opportunity for us. And I want to say thank you to everyone that's been involved. I think it's really vital for us to continue down this route. And I know that I did some consultation with the federal government and the minister on transportation across Canada, and I brought this up as a point for small, urban and rural that, we need to partner. We can't just do it on our own. And, the Southwest Middlesex Thames Centre has partnered in order to do this in their section of Middlesex County. We partnered with London and Sarnia. There's nothing wrong with partnering if we can get the job done so we better serve our residents. So thank you for this.
Appreciate those comments, Councillor Vanderheyden. Certainly starting a transportation program during a pandemic when everything shuts down and you're not supposed to gather or travel in groups, obviously presented issues. So certainly the extension, I think, was needed to really see the uptake on what a project like this could mean for rural Ontario. And just on that note, Councillor Warwick and Councillor Elliott and myself are actually planning a road trip where we are going to take some of these transportation links, and we're going to tell everybody where they can go and what they can see, and all they have to do is hop on the bus. So we're kind of excited to see that and share that with you. Letter from June 18th, 2021 from the Attorney General, POA update. OEB notice for June 4th, 2021. Minutes of the Middlesex Library Board meeting held on June 22nd, 2021. Monthly Board of Health update, June 2021. Letter July 5th, 2021 from MECP updating EA requirements. Strathmere Lodge Census Report for June 2021. AMO update June 18th, 2021. AMO update June 24th, 2021. AMO update June 28th, 2021. Southwest Middlesex Council Resolution 2021-186-988 Crisis Hotline. Letter July 6, 2021 from Derek Hill, General Manager, London Cargill Protein, North America.
Madam Speaker?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Madam Warden. The crisis hotline, I'd like to speak to that.
Certainly.
Yeah,
yep.
I'm sorry you missed my hand there.
Sorry.
That's fine. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has not just had a physical stress on people in terms of their well-being. It has also had a mental stress on many, many people. The isolation has caused anxiety and concern for many, and I think I would like to see, I would move that we support this resolution in that many in that age demographic of 14 years old to 22 years old do need that crisis helpline, and it does save lives. It is important that we look after not just our physical health, but our mental health as well. And very often, those individuals sit in silence, not having someone to reach out to other than their smartphone. And more often than not, that is the tool that most young people use today. And if in the event depression does sit in, I think this is a highly, very functionable tool to give solace and assistance to some individuals. And I think it shouldn't be just merely gone over and approved. I think it should really have our support. That this crisis hotline for mental health is extremely important. I would move that we endorse and support that, Madam Warden, as a show that this council do recognize the vulnerabilities of mental health issues.
So thank you very much for that, Councillor Mayhew. Appreciate those comments, but I do believe we already passed a motion of similar support. I'm not sure whether, I don't think it was the last meeting, it could have been 2 meetings ago, when we received the request from Karen, from MP Karen Vecchio. I believe that's when it was passed. Okay.
That's fine. No, I'm fine with that. But, you know, it just was too important to oversee. Okay.
No, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay, then we'll continue on. So the letter from Cargill, 2021, the May 26, 2021 Southwest Middlesex Resolution, Middlesex County Spray Program Initiation. And correspondence from Councillor Mayhew, Reskunks, Missouri, June 15th, 2021. And if I can get a mover and a seconder to receive those items for information, please. Councillor DeVitt and Councillor Elliott. All opposed? And that's carried. Inquiries. New business. I will just let you know that after our last meeting, we talked about MPAC and the enumeration team that I believe Bill has reached out to them and made arrangements. They will be presenting at our next meeting, I do believe, or there's a staff meeting, Bill's meeting with them on Thursday to discuss. So there will be a further report coming from that. Okay. If there isn't anything else, we were to move into closed session, but that item is going to be deferred again until August 10th. So if I could get a motion to defer that item once again, please. Mover and a seconder. Councillor Warwick and a seconder, Councillor Vanderheyden. All opposed. That's carried. You've got in front of us the list of our next meetings. Again, we'll meet for once during the month of August, and that's August 10th. Look for further details to come out in the near future with regards to the golf tournament on September 16th. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn with a mover and a seconder at 2:47 p.m. Councillor Vanderheyden and Councillor Richards. Before I say all opposed, it was great to be with all of you today. And all opposed, and that's carried. Have a good couple weeks. We'll see you in August.